Welcome to the table.
We're your hosts, Michelle and Laura.
This is where we talk movies, food, and the ways that they bring us together. Grab a seat. This episode starts now.
Okay, Michelle, we're back. We're continuing with our Valentine's Day series. We have Dom back on the pod. What did we think of Eternity?
Me first?
You first.
My first time seeing it, extremely fresh. I finished it about an hour ago. I loved it. I loved it so much. And not to immediately just go and plug the last 3 movies that we've covered, but I've loved all of the movies that we have covered in this season a lot. And Laura, I have to give you the credit because I'm pretty sure that you chose all of them or kind of came up with this concept. And I'm so glad that we didn't go with our initial direction, which was just simply rom-coms. I think we had a list of 90s rom-coms, which are great, but this feels really refreshing. And I feel like this movie, Eternity, is kind of like a great exclamation point at the end of this part of this first part of our love. What are we calling it? Love Takes Time series. Bravo, Laura. Great choice.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, Dom and I saw this when it came out. I had been aggressively targeted with the trailers. I was very pleasantly surprised. And I also, when the movie started, I couldn't initially get a gut reaction about what Dom was going to think of it, but not to give too much away, but I think he really liked it too. So I think it's just like a nice round movie, very like something that should be a repeat watch. Dom, do you remember like what your reaction was after we saw this?
I walked out the first time with having enjoyed the movie because I had a rare experience of being pleasantly surprised, which does not happen often because
our audience knows.
Because I'm usually, especially, when there's kind of the movies towards the end of the year that are being released that are kind of drummed up with a lot of advertising and marketing because they're pushing it for the award season. There's so much hype leading up to the movie that I pretty much have expectations set. But I'll say, watching it a second time, I don't really have any further thoughts or no new ideas about the movie. It kind of just, I don't know.
It's a movie that there are aspects that it makes you think, but I get what you're saying. I did feel the same way now that it's my second time watching it. Listeners, if you haven't yet seen it, it's not in the theaters anymore, but it is now available on streaming. I feel like for February, when you're looking for those like mushy gushy movies, like this is one that's a little bit different. It has like modern spins on it, so I feel like this is it's just like a good palate cleanser.
It's funny you use the word mushy gushy because it is that, but this is very unique. This is not it's not like those other rom-coms, but I don't think that any of the movies that we've covered this season are. I feel like they are all unique and kind of breaking the mold and trying new things. But it could also, if we're looking back on this movie and all this series of movies in 20 years, this may be the type. Like this may just kind of be the thing for this time, but we don't know it yet.
Sure.
But for now, it feels novel to me.
It reminded me of 500 Days of Summer a lot.
Really? Oh, that's funny.
And I don't know if that's the marketing because, like what Michelle's saying, I do feel like it was kind of pitched as this is not your average rom-com, which I feel like 500 Days of Summer, that's the whole deal there where it's like, this is a cool rom-com. This isn't your mom's rom-com.
I actually felt like this right before this. I was like, how would I feel like I could sell this to people our age to definitely like our parents. Like this is a very PG movie. This is a movie you could watch with your parents where you don't want to watch sex scenes. I feel like it's a movie for the people.
Well, it has a bit of that sci-fi aspect that kind of makes it a little more of a thinker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And people love that. And that's definitely has been a I mean, it makes sense. We kind of, again, picked time as our theme for this season, but it's like past, present, future. And this is a movie that ends up kind of combining all because it's talking a lot about past loves and first loves and how you're entering a next chapter of quote unquote life or death.
Laura, I'm curious. You said that you were heavily targeted for this.
Mhm.
Why do you think that was?
I think because I interact with a lot of film content and movies that are like clips from movies that I haven't seen before, a lot on like Criterion Channel, but then just ones that probably fit a specific genre. So a lot of times when movies are coming out, I probably fall in like the movie goer demographic that if I'm getting served an ad, like it's probably a given that if I like it, then I'm going to go see it.
Do you consider yourself to be squarely, if it's an A24 film, that you're game to
Oh,
see
yeah.
it? Like, no
Mhm.
questions asked?
No question. Same with like Focus Features, Janus Films, like any of those. It's neon. I think I'm very predictable in that way. And Dom and I really do go to the movies once a week. We'll be able to go
Yeah, I think
tomorrow.
Laura's Instagram feed is half A24 movies and half old French women like in the countryside. So I feel like A24 was like, we got our target audience right here.
I'm just excited to talk about why we were all. There was a lot of surprise and delight with this movie for all of us. Michelle, we'll start with you since this is your first time. Hit me with it. What are the things that you loved?
I think the first thing I have to say is the art direction, the coloring, the costumes, and the sets. It's funny that I don't feel like I got targeted for this very hard. I mean, I was aware that this movie existed, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of hype around it. At least I don't feel like it was marketed in a mainstream way, but maybe this is just kind of.
I have a feeling their budget wasn't very big, if I had to guess, in terms of their marketing budget. And like Dom mentioned, because it came out towards the end of the year, there was competition with other maybe like Oscar contenders that it might have gotten lost.
It's also interesting that this movie came out in the fall. I would have thought in the past this movie would have came out around this time of year, but maybe this is just kind of, this is the future of movies. They're putting more weight on the streaming release date than the in theaters release date, because I know Laura mentioned that this is streaming, but as we're recording this, it's still in that you can either rent it for $20 or buy it for $24. But by the time this comes out, I'm pretty sure right around when this episode drops, it will be streaming on Apple for,
Yeah, I got a pop-up notification today that it's streaming maybe on Valentine's Day, actually.
Yeah, I think on the 13th.
Okay.
So
good marketing.
Yeah, so we'll be kind of tracking this, I guess, with other new releases to see if this trend continues, or maybe our smart audience may already know the answer to this. But
I feel like just modern marketing for films now is so siloed that there's really very few movies that we're all aware of and being targeted with and interested in seeing. I feel like on the flip side of Laura being heavily targeted with this, there's this like 3-hour movie about Ferdinand Magellan that came out that I don't think anyone's ever heard of besides me, but every ad on my Instagram is about it and I want to see it so bad, but because they know that this is something that I would be interested in. But I think I'm going to be the only person who watches this movie.
We're seeing it tomorrow, so we'll report back.
All right. Well, the reason I brought this up, that I wasn't targeted for this in alignment with my favorite thing, which was the art direction, is that after watching this, I think this movie is probably more me than you, Laura. I think that we both kind of gravitate towards mid-century style, which we're seeing a lot of in this movie. But there's something about it that it was that style combined with it being a softer story. I feel like, Laura, you're a little bit more edgier than I am. Yeah, I'm insulted that they did not target me with this.
I did have that question throughout of like, would I have liked this movie as much if it wasn't Elizabeth Olsen and John Early and Da'Vine Joy? Like, I don't know. I don't know if it would have worked, but the script was really good. So again, it was that perfect like marriage of those two things together. But I agree. Yeah, it's definitely more of a Michelle movie, but I was like, I have to see this movie. It just, if I get one more Instagram ad, I'm just pulling the trigger.
I mean, I'm glad it got you because here we are. I did for a second. I was traveling and I had a night to myself and I was going to go see this movie only because there was nothing else playing and it was the like of everything playing, this would be the one that I would have chosen. But there was something about the premise that made me pause and I thought, is this going to make me really sad? And ultimately it did. I was definitely like getting very weepy toward act 3, but yeah, no, I loved this and I did end up purchasing it and I'm glad I did because this will be a rewatchable for me.
Oh, nice. We spend $45 between the two of us to watch.
Yes, we have. Plus your movie tickets.
Plus our movie ticket.
But yeah, if I were art directing a film, I think it would look a lot like this. The whatever coloring they used, everything felt very saturated, which is a look that I really like. All of the costumes were just so beautiful in all of them. I know Callum Turner's were, his were the most boring of all of them, but in hindsight, maybe that was just kind of a choice. But especially all of Elizabeth Olsen's outfits and the way that, her eyes looked so beautiful in every shot. The scenes that took place in Mountain World and the scenes in Beach World. I'm curious if you guys noticed this since you've now seen it more than once, but I would love to go back. And in my head, those are the two, like when I'm just thinking of them as kind of like still shots that I think are the most beautiful. But I'm wondering if they dialed up the saturation and the coloring in the eternity scenes versus the scenes where they were kind of in the, what is the setting for the like the in between? The junction, is that what they call it? Okay. Yeah, versus the junction.
Well, it's funny because the carpeting in the junction really reminds me of the renovations that they just did at JFK, but it was kind of fun. Like, it's very retro. I was trying to do a deeper analysis about the wardrobe choices, not just with the setting, but their personalities and their relationships. And I felt like these like dark blues were very kind of like this cool and like calming, but almost like sexy approach, or not really sexy, but like very enticing approach, where the beach setting's kind of chaotic. You have like kids throwing beach balls, and then the mountains are very like calm and cool and like, an escape, and very perfect and pristine and polished. Good choices by the costume department and the set design.
Have either of you seen the Marvel series Loki?
I have not.
I watched one episode.
The whole concept of the junction reminded me so much of something that they have in Loki, which is the TVA, which is the time variance. I forget what the A stands for, but it's the same kind of era. They even have like Owen Wilson's role is very similar to like what an AC would be, kind of an attendant to kind of guide you through time. But I loved that show because of the TVA. So it was really fun to see this version that was even more suited to my aesthetic, because the TVA's, even though it is very mid-century, it's a little like dustier. It's like more oranges and browns, whereas this was more like reds and still, even though, maybe in comparison it wasn't as the colors weren't as intense as the eternity scenes, but they still, everything was very vibrant. They had all the backgrounds and like the fake windows, which I really liked.
60s Mad Men office kind of look.
Yeah. I mean, especially like that bar looked like they ripped that set out of Mad Men.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job. I mean, I'm assuming it's a pretty low budget film, but I think they did some really smart things where you don't notice the lack of money. Like it looks pretty expensive. Like one example I can think of, I think Laura and have like discussed this before, but the flashback memory scene when she's like looking back on memories, even though I'm sure maybe this was for budgetary reasons, but the memories are just kind of on like a hand drawn white background, but it doesn't take you out of the movie. Like it's still effective. But decisions like that and kind of the junction, I'm sure it's just one set, but it's not something that takes you out of the movie. You're still pretty in it, even though I'm sure that was kind of a cost saving decision.
I love that though. If they came up with that concept to cut back on costs, I mean, that's how it's done. You don't shoot it poorly. Do something with it if you only
Mhm.
have something to work with. And I love that the three of us are talking about this movie and that they had that kind of hand-drawn background for all of the tunnel scenes, because it reminded me so much of the last movie that we covered together, An American in Paris.
I didn't think of that.
I didn't think of that either, Michelle. Look at
No.
you.
Well, how about you guys? One thing I want
Yeah.
to talk a little bit more. I mean, we've just brushed on it in the opening, but I thought that this cast was fantastic. And maybe this is why I wasn't part of why I wasn't targeted with this. I don't feel particularly attached to any of these people. I've liked things that they've all been in, but I don't know. There's something about the performances in this I think were better than any other thing that I've seen them in, which is saying a lot 'cause they've been in some really good things, other things that I've loved. But because the roles in this movie were so different than other things I've seen them in, it made me really appreciate them more as actors.
I like Elizabeth Olsen a lot. I think she's always really good in everything she's in. Miles Teller, I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't like dislike him or anything. I just don't really. I never really see him and go, oh, I have to check that out. And the third guy, I don't even know who he is. So sorry.
Callum Turner. So
Sorry,
he
Callum.
is a British actor who's engaged to Dua Lipa. And if you just need a little bit of dopamine, just Google videos of the two of them out in public because you will die. They are the most. I don't know if it is a show for people who are catching them on video, but if it is, I don't want to know because it seems so pure. There are so many videos of them just like out at a bar because Dua Lipa is like very known. She like loves to go out dancing and they're just always having the best time being like so affectionate, but not in like an ew way. It's like feels so genuine. And apparently they met because they were reading the same book next to each other, which is just like you could die. And if this is all fake, I don't want
It's fine.
It's fine because I believe in it and it's beautiful. So I really actually do think he is this way in person.
Wow, hot tip from Laura. I didn't know about any of this.
Also part of my Instagram algorithm getting targeted with videos of Dua Lipa and Callum Turner. So
wow. Yeah, I really only know him from one thing that we'll be covering later in the season.
John Early and Da'Vine Joy Randolph are the highlights of the movie. I love the two of them. I mean, Da'Vine, she's like phenomenal in everything she did. She was in The Holdovers, and she was great in that. She was in High Fidelity, and she was the best part of that. But she's amazing, and then John Early is so funny. I didn't know either of them were in the movie. John Early is like a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was at all. But yeah, when I went to go look up his IMDb, I got the sense that he was probably something in comedy. I mean, one, just because he's so funny in this. And also for the audience, if you haven't seen this, he plays Ryan, one of the
ACs.
The ACs. But yeah, it seems like he also does a lot of voice work. And Da'Vine Joy, I know her most from Only Murders in the Building. And every time she pops into a scene, Jimmy and I pretty like applaud. She's, other than Martin Short, our favorite part of the show. So it was really fun to see her in this part. And I hope that we just keep getting more of her.
She has this energy where whenever she's on the screen, like she's the person you're looking at.
Yeah.
Like in anything she's in. She's always like you're like you just can't take your eyes off her. So I have a couple recommendations. I'd recommend John Early's stand-up special on HBO. He does something a little unique. Because he sings also, so he has a backing band behind him. So in between his stand-up sets, he does covers with his band. I'd recommend A24 because they're so hip. They have a podcast as like promotional for movies. So they do an episode where John Early and Da'Vine Joy Randolph, they interview each other for like 20 minutes. That's really interesting because they're both so just interesting, and they're both like, you can tell they became friends off set, and they knew each other because I think they both went to like a performing arts school, and they didn't realize that they both went there at the same time, but they talk about it on the podcast. So I recommend that. And then my final recommendation is Da'Vine Joy Randolph did an episode of WTF, the Mark Maron podcast that stopped, but she did it I think when she was promoting The Holdovers, and she's just the most interesting person. She's like a classically trained opera singer, and she can play guitar and she can play piano, but she doesn't want to be pigeonholed into playing singers, so she only takes roles where she doesn't have to sing. She was in the show High Fidelity, which is about Zoe Kravitz is like a record store owner. She mentioned this on the podcast. She was saying how like the creators of the show are begging her like, oh please, like you work at a record store, like sing and play guitar. She's like, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to do it. So they basically forced her in the last episode of the show to for like 10 seconds to sing on screen. And she's like, I was forced into do it, but I don't want to be pigeonholed. Like I want to just be known as an actor. And she's just like the most talented person ever. And so I definitely recommend people listen to that episode also. It's really great stuff.
Wow,
Just had a
Dom.
moment of, you are my biggest fan.
We'll link to all three of those below
Yes.
so that for easy access. But yeah, I'm
Love it.
excited. I
Yeah.
love having bonus content to consume after
I'm
I
sending
get to know
homework
an
to the
actor.
audience.
Dom, besides being in love with another woman, clearly, what are some things that you loved this time around?
There were certain lines the first time around that I thought were really funny that I was looking forward to. Like basically any opportunity that they gave John or Da'Vine to like improvise was always so funny. I guess it's always interesting watching a movie a second time now when you know what's going to happen, to kind of follow the pacing of the movie and where they're going where, and maybe if there's kind of foreshadowing in the beginning of the movie to what's going to happen at the end. So that's what I was looking forward to. It didn't really change my opinion of the movie at all.
Going back to the casting, I feel like the writing really came through, which is like, I feel like this is another good movie if you're a beginning screenwriter and just want structure down really well, because it's very straightforward. I think it's paced really well. I have some things here and there that weren't my favorite, which I'll get into in the next section. But I feel like with the characters, they did a really good job of showing Joni and Larry's relationship and their dynamic. And I can say this now because it's not my favorite scene, but the opening of this movie is one of the most joyful parts for me. I love their banter of them in the car. It felt like looking in on my parents, like older, or anyone's parents when they're at that age. And it felt so human, of like talking over each other and basically having two completely separate discussions. And, there's chaos, there's people trying to drive around them. I remember actually watching it in the theater and being like, oh my God, they're going to get hit by a car and die. So I like that they didn't make that decision, but I feel like their relationship, like we knew everything about their marriage in just that opening scene, and then they leave us with this really like tender and beautiful moment before they go into the house, basically revealing that she's about to die and showing that he does have this caring and soft side. And then like jumping to them being in the junction, and they have all these little tidbits, like he calls her, you know, my Joe, or they have a lot of different references like, I told you not to eat pretzels so fast, and falling back into exactly how they were when they were alive. And I'll save this for quotes later, but I feel like that's a very human thing of with your partner and picking up on like our idiosyncrasies and the things that like drive us nuts about each other, but that's like what makes it so special. So I think they did just like a really solid job of like having that continuity throughout. And then same with Luke's character. I think that he's not supposed to have so much depth outwardly. He's kind of supposed to be this very like perfect, pristine memory from the past. And they don't really have these super deep discussions. They really speak surface level about their memories together for when they were married, and really focus on like his looks and his one-liners and, you know, the ongoing jokes of like how he died in the war that wasn't like the legit war. And, you know, they didn't add so much depth to that. And like Elizabeth Olsen was able to shine by being in this triangle because she, I think, is like the heart of this movie. Like she just completely jumps off the screen every time that she comes into a frame, not just based on, you know, like you were saying, her eyes, Michelle, but everything that she's doing as an actor in these scenes. Like I was blown away by her, the way that she cries the first time that she sees Luke after all of these years, the way that she screams in certain parts, the way that she, you know, gets drunk, the way that she has a conversation with Karen. Like I think that she is just the perfect junction point between these two men. Whether or not like you're so excited about Callum Turner, I think like it actually works really well for him to not be this very like loud and super memorable person, and more of this image of what we're remembering a past love as, which is like perfect and without flaws.
Oh, that's really well said. Yeah, I would love to hear your experiences with this because I feel like I don't know. I feel a little stupid sometimes when I talk about what I thought was going to happen or when I'm watching movies for the first time because now that I've seen it, it feels like it's so obvious, but when I went into watching this movie, I thought it was going to be a really, I mean, it was a love triangle for sure. I felt like they did a really great job of making a case for both of them. So it felt very on equal footing. But one of my earliest notes was, why are we following Larry's character? I felt like he was kind of like our person that we were supposed to latch onto.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why are we not putting Joni's character as maybe the first one who gets there, and we're kind of following her journey? I mean, we do follow her, but I don't know. I felt like in the beginning, like this was Larry's story, and that Joni was kind of his co-star and Luke was his adversary. So this is where I felt really stupid. When we got to the part where she decides to go off with Luke, I didn't completely expect her to actually choose one of them. I thought it was going to be like she said, I'm not picking either of you. And that seemed like, okay, that's going to be like the easy, obvious solution. But then when she went off with Luke, I thought like, oh, that's so beautiful because Larry expressed his like, you know, really showing how much he loves her because he just wants her to be happy. But then ultimately, when she comes back around and, you know, we end up with Larry and Joan together at the end, I was like, oh, okay, now all of this makes way more sense that like Larry had such like more weight at the beginning of the movie. I mean, he was supposed to be the one that we were rooting for, and I was rooting for him over
Yeah.
Luke for sure, but I'm able to see it so much more clearly now having completed
Yeah.
watching it.
I know this was a movie that I guess anyone could predict who she's, but I really was sitting throughout the movie like, who the fuck is she gonna pick? I don't know. Like, I feel really on edge right now because I don't know who she's gonna go with. And then I kind of thought that was the ending that she was gonna, and I was like, oh, really?
I was
Like,
okay with it though. I was like, you know what, if this
I
is
was
the ending
fine
it
with it,
felt.
but you could tell she was gonna have a change of heart. Dom was talking about foreshadowing earlier, and I liked that they included when Joan and Larry had their trial day at the beach that they're waiting in line for the archive tunnels, but they never actually end up going in. And that becomes such an really one of the reasons why she decides to end up risking her life and going back to be with him, because she is haunted by all these, like, her whole life's memories. And it was such a strong decision, I feel like, to wait for that, for her to like have that those tender moments by herself to like go back and look at time, and the fact that Luke is like aware that she's doing it. And because I do wonder how much time passed by of them being in Mountain World. It could have been weeks, it could have been months, we don't really know. I feel like it could have at least been 2 months, but it's not super clear.
And I also liked that they brought back that opening scene as kind of the thing that made her realize that this is what this is all about.
Exactly.
Dom, how about you? Do you remember when you're watching it for the first time? Did you think before you went into the movie know what was going to happen, or were you surprised at how it ended?
No, I was the same as you, Michelle. Originally I thought the three of them were just going to go to the same place. But then when she first chose Callum Turner, I kind of thought that was the ending, and I thought maybe it would just show Miles Teller meeting someone maybe or something. But then watching it this time, same as you, Michelle, I was like, I don't know how I could have possibly thought that she would have selected Callum Turner. Like, I think it was kind of obvious that she was going to go with Miles.
But they do play with your heartstrings a little bit, because there is this point where she is on the train with Karen and she's like, I'm not going with either of you because this is too much pressure. She's not doing that because she actually wants to. She just doesn't really want to make a decision.
Yeah, so in our 500 Days of Summer episode, we were talking a lot about how that movie was very much told from a male's perspective and how the movie unfolded because of that. Now, with this movie, it was written by two guys, and I just kept wondering that if a woman wrote this movie, I'm glad that it ended up being like a true traditional kind of like romantic ending, but I feel like the go-to for a woman writing this movie would be to say this woman never got to do anything that she wanted to do in her life on earth, and now this is her chance to blow off both of these guys and go do her thing. But they really didn't. I feel like they didn't touch on that at all, and I'm not upset about it. I feel like because I love how this story unfolded, but I feel like that could have been just like a completely different movie.
It could have been really funny if they made her, because I don't know if I was writing down all of the worlds that were featured.
I was trying.
In the exhibition
Michelle, I
room.
think, would have done the 1930s France where they spoke English.
Yes. Well, I don't know. We need to get Michelle back to Paris one more time.
Oh, yeah, but it's like, I feel like it's a Michelle version.
I would definitely pick a historical one.
Or Michelle would have been like, "Where's the library?" And I'll just
there was
I feel
Library
like
World, but the guy couldn't get anyone to join him at Library World.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it would have been a funny decision if they made her end up in Man-Free World. If she just left.
Yes.
I don't want to be around anyone anymore.
And there you go, Michelle. I mean, it was written and directed by men. So that's probably why I started off with Larry, because it was from Larry's point of view.
Yeah, that's a great point. But you know what? This worked. I'm good with it.
Dom, I know you made your case for why Anna's character and Ryan's character are so great, but we always give a little bit of a section of talking about supporting characters in this movie, and they are very much, there's 5 people in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They are so lovely, and when I say lovely, I mean hilarious, but lovely as well, because there are things to explain and there's things that need to have expository parts, but every line that comes out of their mouth is so funny. And like Dom had mentioned, like anytime she comes on a screen, you're drawn in by her energy. From the minute she says like, hello, my name is Anna and I'm your AC, I'm like, I'm locked in. I need to know everything about her. I need to know her backstory. I'm going to absolutely fall in love with the friendship that her and Larry foster, but it just added so much comedic relief to like the parts that are supposed to be very like sappy and serious. And I love that I know from all the targeting, one of the lines that they use continuously in the trailer is like, she says it's not a competition. And they're like, no, it's absolutely a competition. This is exactly what it is. Like, I do love that they just make it a competition. It's like all fun and games for them. I love the decision that they made. It just felt very human. It's like even in the afterlife, they're so jaded by work and they're like, everyone kind of just becomes these people that they have to take care of. They're like pushing papers. But like Dom said, I think that you could tell they added a lot of improv in this. I can't see this like completely being scripted because John Early is so great with that. But I enjoyed every single moment with the two of them.
I felt like John Early, and this is just from watching it once, and this is a reason I would specifically want to go back and rewatch it. I felt like he had so many little subtle like looks and ticks and little body movements that he did where he wasn't even the person speaking. To have both of them have such a presence at the same time is really hard to do, but it's great to hear that they that according to Dom's podcast episode that they get along, because I feel like they shared the screen really well.
Yeah. This isn't one of my favorite lines, but just going off of what you're talking about, things that are subtle. I love that little, because I had the subtitles on, but that little mention where he's like, my client needs a little bit of time. She clearly has a very difficult decision to make. And just that he's like completely sure that she's obviously going to go with not Larry. And I love that he's just completely like hating on Larry.
This is back to our three main cast members. They definitely all had accents, right?
Yeah.
I think it was that kind of 50s old-timey accent that was very subtle. I don't really know what Callum Turner's was, but because he's British, I give him a pass with anything because I don't understand how anyone who's British does an American accent. It's completely mind-boggling to me. I felt like his was actually very bro-y, and the way that he like, would put his arm, even in his arm around Joan, like it felt like a teenage boy going to the movies for the first time. But yes, I think they all had accents aside from Anna and Ryan.
Yeah, I think they had like a vague 50s Brooklyn accent going on.
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever it was, I really, really liked it because they didn't, no one ever called them out on it. Like Anna and Ryan's characters could have poked fun at them, but I felt like it fit in with this whole creative direction that because these characters had their formative love stories kind of in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that they fashioned their entire world that we're seeing in the movie around that, including how they talk, it was so great. It was such just like a little decision that it kept my interest peaked throughout the whole movie. Also, the great use of just calling them like honey, sweetie. Like I know, Laura, you mentioned at the beginning that it made you think of mom and dad in the car. And it did for me too, more from like a stress standpoint. Like I felt like I was so tense and I felt the same way. I'm like, oh my God, this is something really bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
But I think I also thought of Grammy and Pop Pop. I think especially Larry's character has a little of our Pop Pop in him. He's like a little, I don't know if salty is the right word, because he was very,
he's very salty,
a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's why I think again, gonna go back to pleasantly surprised. Miles Teller has like a very specific style of acting, and I don't get so excited when he's on the screen, but I feel like for this role, it just worked. Like the way that he was able to take Larry, who we meet in the first 2 minutes, who dies, and then I'm like, it's the same person. It's the exact same person. He even admits, he's like, I didn't really, like, I wasn't that surprised. Like when I found out that this is Afterlife, I'm like, oh, okay. Like very accepting of it, very matter of fact, but also very salty and sweet. Like he's complains about everything. Anna's always making comments about how, you seem like a little agitated, Larry. Did you complain a lot? Were you uncomfortable before, you died? But then Joe like completely softens him. Like even though he picks arguments like an old married couple, like he loves her so much and, makes such a point to, the sweetie and call her my Joe and like wanting to, do these things for her, not to win her over, but just because he loves her. Were you guys in support of Larry's decision to not wait for her when he first got there?
I felt very sympathetic towards him because I kind of took it as like, I don't think that he thought that he had another option, because at that point he didn't know that Luke existed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure if someone said like, hey, if you want to hang out here and take a job, you can do it. I don't think that they introduced that option to him.
I think
before
they
he wrote
did.
the letter, did they?
I think they did. That's why I like don't really know why he didn't wait, because he knew that she was probably close to passing away.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like he did it maliciously. And I did have this thought yesterday that I was like, I think Dom would have picked a Worlds, but not as like
he would have ditched you.
I really trust he would have picked like the Worlds for me and him. Like he would
know you that well.
I would not be concerned that he's like picking somewhere that I don't want to be. If you go first, Dom, and this is the Afterlife, like I'm giving you permission now. Just not somewhere too cold.
I wouldn't do what he did and like pick it before she arrives. I would just have like the recommendation like ready, and I'd be like, so like when you arrive, I'd be like, give it all a look, but like this is what I recommend. That's what I would.
Like he's like you're my travel agent.
I think if it was the opposite, like if Laura was Callum Turner and she was there for 67 years, she still wouldn't know where we would end up. I'd get there 67 years later and she would still be checking the options.
Yes. I'd be like, I've been to every single tent and none of them are sticking.
I think the question for the table is, I mean, I had a different question, but
we can do a couple. Definitely this question. Who did you think Joan was going to end up with? And were you happy? And the second question, what we were just talking about, Michelle.
Well, I was going to pose it in this way. If you got there first and you had to pick for you and your partner, something that you and your partner would both enjoy, what world are you picking? Because I asked Jimmy this earlier, and I think we have it narrowed down, but we're still deliberating.
Okay. What are you guys deliberating between?
Well, you have to kind of think of what is your strongest commonality or common interest. We threw around, I mean, the first thing that came to our mind was like trivia and Jeopardy. So maybe like living in some kind of like Jeopardy world. It's like us two and like Ken Jennings and maybe Alex Trebek would also be there. Wow. And podiums. And
you can't pick who's there, Michelle. They have to opt in.
Oh, that's true. They might not want to, and that would be a big plot twist.
What if there's like annoying people though, who's like
Alex Trebek is probably like so sick of this. I'm not doing this with us.
A lot of know-it-alls. You're right. Yeah. You're right. I think we need to keep. Hopefully, we have time to keep workshopping. Yeah,
I could see you doing something related to Frank Sinatra. That would be funny. I was just thinking of.
These are very specific worlds.
Yeah. See, mine is so simple, and I think I'm going to convince Dom to be on board for this. absolutely a European setting. I'm picturing a bistro table sitting outside with some pebbles and like having a every morning I have like my perfect morning breakfast with like some lavender fields in the background, and I can like walk into a small European town with like a market and a cafe and a bookstore, a movie theater, but like in a beautiful, quaint European village.
All right, I'm just gonna come with you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, but I think that world would be sold out.
Shoot, they did mention that John Early says we had to get rid of some because they're not that PC anymore. And you know what? Don't put that out there, Dom. There has to be one European worlds that I can go to. Maybe it's
You
not like
just
my
have to add more specific details to yours.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll think about it.
Bring this question to your tables. Choose your
Yes.
eternity. Tell your partner or brainstorm with your partner. Figure it out now while you have time.
Well, is there anything that we didn't like about this movie?
I couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like I was going to bring the note that why was Larry our first point of contact, but it worked out. So I had to delete that from my dislike notes.
No, that's a fair
Yeah.
question, because I think it kind of, if it was from Elizabeth Olsen's perspective, I think it would have been different. And maybe if it was from Elizabeth Olsen's perspective, you would be more conflicted or unsure of which way she should go.
Yeah. Because I kept wondering, like, am I leaning more towards Larry, not because of him, but because I've been in I've been married for so long and I've been with the same person for such a long time. And like, I identify more with that dynamic than I feel like I barely remember a relationship that would have been like
Yeah.
Luke.
Well, I think there's that overarching theme, which they have a couple lines that tie back to this, of like this perception of like your first love or honeymoon stage. They were only married for 2 years, that everything really is perfect. And she even says, like, we never had to fight about a mortgage or kids, or we didn't have anything that was like difficult or challenging. It was all these like happy moments. And that's life. Like if everything was so perfect in a relationship, it not only would be boring, it just wouldn't feel human. It wouldn't feel like, why we're here and why we're in relationships. She ended up picking the thing that like was imperfect, which makes it perfect. It's also like so much time has gone by if you think about that. Like she has this memory and being in love, but like she there's not as many memories to fill that she can like attach as much love and care and like depth to.
I mean, she even kind of implies who knows if they would have stayed together. I mean, she knows with Larry that they've been through stuff and they've aged together and they stuck it out, and that's not a guarantee.
I don't have a note. It's more of a feeling. But this movie, I think, is under 2 hours. And I think that last drag of her picking Luke, her having the worlds with him, her going through the archive tunnels, and then her ending up with Larry is so important, so needed. There's just a little bit of a lull. Maybe it could have been like 10, 15 minutes where it's like after she's kind of done the trial worlds and we have Luke and Larry starting to bond, which is like hilarious. But then there's kind of like a second part where they are like alone again, which is also really sweet and they have a great conversation. But for some reason, the pacing for me like slows down a little bit. And this is like not even a dig or a comment on what to change because I can't exactly pinpoint it. But there's just something towards like the back third of the movie that like starts to slow down a little bit for me.
Yeah, I felt that a little bit. I think if I had to cut anything, and again, I'm saying this now knowing the ending, but the life that she was living with Luke in the mountain town. It's like, okay, I think we get the point of what this
Maybe
is
it
like.
could have
They're
been like a
hanging out
little bit
with,
shorter. Maybe
yeah,
they didn't have to hang out with the ski couple, or
yeah.
there was like maybe a little too many of those. They could have just shown them, making love for the first time and like being in this very honeymoon stage, and then her kind of falling like out of love. So
Yeah, I mean, I think her going into the tunnel and looking at her memories told us what we needed to know about
yeah,
her, knowing that she made the
exactly.
wrong choice.
But overall, I mean, I think the fact that we have no notes in this section just shows that how like solid and stable this movie is. So
But what about film critic Dom? Do you have
yeah,
notes?
I mean, I think it's a pretty tight script and it's well directed and well acted and everything. So I don't really have any notes. I mean, I'll just say this is maybe more of a taste issue, but I didn't really, after I saw the movie, and as I said before, I was pleasantly surprised and liked it more than I thought I would. I didn't really think about it too much after this first time. And then, the second time I saw it, I mean, thinking about it in preparation for this call, but outside of that, like, it's not something that really stuck with me, like, that I really
yeah,
thought about.
In comparing this to About Time, it's the movie About Time. I think Eternity really leads with its style is the thing that sets it apart. But I mean, at the core, it's a love triangle story. And it's a girl who is between the person she's been with and the one who got away. I mean, if
yeah,
we're going to whittle it down, whereas About Time was such a more complex, but yet broader story about love.
The romantic comedy genre is just difficult because you need to stay within the parameters of what's expected for the genre. And this isn't just rom-com, so you could say action or comedy or any specific genre, that there are tropes that you need to adhere to, because if you don't, I mean, people are going to it expecting certain things that I mean, there's a reason why there's certain trademarks of the genres, because they're proven to work and that it's like satisfying. It's difficult because I feel like people are always saying like, oh, they don't make rom-coms anymore, or like you always want something different, but then do you really want something different? Because like there's a reason why they're all like this, because
yeah.
it works and like that's what people want.
All right. Well, I think we should get into our favorite scenes and favorite quotes. So, Dom, I want to start with you. Do you have a favorite scene?
Elizabeth Olsen's escape from Mountain World was pretty clever and interesting and kind of stood out. It was like they filmed it kind of like with the limited sets and characters that they had. I think it was really visually interesting. And it was, I mean, speaking of going against the tropes of the genre, I mean, I feel like the movie pretty clearly established the rules of the world for them to only break the rules, which was kind of like a thrilling aspect.
Yeah.
That you were kind of going through the whole movie saying like, well, she can't leave the world, but then she does, but it still follows the rules of the world. It's not ignoring what they established in the beginning of the movie.
It shows some really like intense like scenes that, a fight that her and Larry have. I think there's supposed to be another scene when she's like 16 and really young, and things that are specific to her life weren't necessarily needed, but I really think they added a lot to just that one section.
I loved that scene. And speaking of hitting all the beats, I was like, oh, this is very Dark Night of the Soul, because not only did she have to make this tough decision, but now she really is putting herself through the ringer and going through all the worst parts of life, and then still, choosing Larry at the end of it. But especially the scenes where she was seeing kind of like the diorama versions of her life, but where she's having the fight with Larry and she's like on the staircase, and then she kind of ends up with herself and on her deathbed. and then crawling under the bed. All of that felt like a real nightmare that I've not that I've like
Yeah.
had a nightmare about those events happening, but the being in very narrow spaces is something that happens in my dreams a lot, and I felt like they really captured that in a way that I like that they kind of took it like almost to like a horror place just for that little segment.
Yeah, and even ending with her, I think it was a way of her letting go or like meeting herself at the end to like make this to be so clear in her decision is like meeting herself on her deathbed, which I thought was like a really beautiful decision. Dom, do you have any favorite lines?
It's always funny when they're arguing and then John Early goes, "Boys!"
So many good John Early quotes. Michelle, what about you? Favorite scene, favorite lines?
All right, I have a favorite scene and a favorite moment. So my favorite scene, I think, was the two guys talking about their memories. I mean, the part where they're hanging out and having fun and drinking together is really fun, but that they end up in this very tender scene where they're both sharing the best parts of their life and bonding a little bit, and then Larry having his big aha moment. And when he jumped up, I mean, it was obvious once he revealed what it was, but I had no idea what it was going to end up being. So I thought it also ended on a beat of intrigue, which was great.
And they did a good job of, I think it was supposed to set his character a little bit more to show that he was so wrapped up in her beauty inside and out, but he has about 4, I think, different instances throughout the movie where he says like, "God, Joan, you look so good. You look so beautiful," which is like kind of talking about her hair because he had never seen her at that length. So I
I
feel
just
like
got
it was
chills.
just kind of like he couldn't pinpoint it. Like he's like, she always looks beautiful, but for some reason, and you know how, Michelle, you and I talk about this all the time, that when people are doing something that they love or they're so happy, like there's this glow about them. And this is supposed to be when, a point in your life when people are happiest. So I thought that was a good setup. Just thought of another question for the table. If you woke up in the junction, how old would you be? What
So
is
when
your
were you happiest?
happiest moment or happiest time of your life? I guess up until this point, since we're not older yet.
I think I'm
Michelle,
I'm
please.
probably gonna steal mine from from the Palm Springs episode, because we talked about what day we would want to be stuck
At my
in the
wedding?
time loop. I guess your wedding could be one of them, but my day in London when William was born. I think that
Aw.
however old I was on that day.
Dom, do you have one?
You go first.
Honestly, I think I have to say our wedding. I mean, just to be surrounded by like so many people that I love and like feel so in love. Like, I don't know. It just like, I know it's like such a cliche day, but I don't know. There's probably, if I were to go through, like, I think especially because we've done so many wonderful trips in the last couple years, I feel like one that sticks out is being in Lisbon during, they had like a lot of like festivals in June. And I just remember Dom and I like, it was so warm out. It was like such like a hot like summer night. And we're just like in the street, like with like a cold beer and just like feeling so happy to be somewhere that I'd never been before, knew nothing about, and be like on this wonderful trip with my husband. Like it was, or I guess it was before we were married, but it was like such a joy. But I think I have a lot of those. I feel lucky that I feel like I have a lot of those like little moments.
Yeah, I agree. Those would be mine as
You
well.
agree?
I
What's
don't
your
know.
real answer?
There was a lot of good music that came out when we were in high school, so that would be kind of fun.
Listening to Kid Cudi in your car.
I mean, the summer of 2010,
All the greats.
Kings of Leon, Drake,
Yeah.
Obama was president. I mean, it was
Oh, what a time.
people had their driver's license,
Yeah,
so you could get a ride.
it's a good time in life.
Well, wait, so actually, because I think we didn't really answer the question correctly, because it's not a moment, it's like an age.
It's an
Well,
age,
it is an
yeah.
So
age,
you're
but
not
they talk
reliving the
about a
moment.
moment, like,
No.
at that age.
So you want to die on your wedding day?
You'll materialize as the version of you on your happiest day or in your happiest state. But you're right. I don't know if they ever really specified if it was a day or just kind of
I think it's
an
like a time,
era of your
like a
life. Yeah.
year. That's why they say, like, oh, there's a lot of men who wake up as like 8-year-olds. But the point was that Larry and Luke have this discussion of like why it's this age. Like what is like a moment in time in that age. Yeah, and I feel like it's not just like our chips. I feel like it was like living in Los Angeles and like being, having like our apartment and like just having such a happy time in life. And I guess that was like the year of our weddings.
Yeah, I don't know, but also you could say being an adult, you have like adult stresses.
Being maybe six or seven, like before really getting into like elementary school, maybe like right after kindergarten, like that time period. I remember the four of us were putting on a lot of shows then. Like it was the years where you start to be a little bit more aware and like have more formative memories. Yeah, I also feel like that time period was so fun. Just like I think of like summer nights and like not having any responsibilities and being able to like run outside with neighbors and summers of soccer camp and vacations and all of that. So I guess either as a 6 or 7-year-olds or a 29-year-olds.
I think that this is kind of Joan's defense as to why she showed up at that age. It really, I think, had less to do with her love for Luke and more that everything that happened after that, she had gone through this horrible grief.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who would want to put themselves, through something like that? Or like I'm sure she was so changed as a person after he died and she was carrying around this grief for the rest of her life. So before that is probably just a time where she felt lighter, almost like you're describing Laura as a kid.
And I feel like this was supposed to be a fun question and now we're getting philosophical, but I agree, Michelle, because I think she doesn't choose what age she arrives at the junction. It's just when she was happiest, which would be when she was like young and got married and has no kids and no stresses and is just kind of living life. And being married with kids with Larry wasn't when she was happiest, but as the movie shows, she really was happiest then because you get the full experience of life and not just the highs of being a young person. You get the lows also, which makes the complete experience. So as Laura's mentioning, she was happiest the year or that time when we got married, but also because you have the highs and the lows and the full experience of life as an adult.
Michelle, did you have any favorite quotes?
Yeah, I had a few, but let me just drop. I have one other favorite sub scene. I just love that in the scene where they have the fake Dean Martin concert, that Anna is playing the keyboard. So that was like
She's probably really playing it too.
That's true.
Yes.
Now that we know her musical
There we
background.
go. I think Dom's gonna leave me for her if he ever gets the chance. I actually hope that you get to meet her just so you can like be like, okay, go listen to my wife's podcast and go to about 10 minutes in and I write a love letter to you.
Anyway, favorite lines. Okay, so I wrote down 3. This one was at the beginning, but one of the AC guys says to this random woman, "I know you, Jill. You just want a box of Chardonnay in a pool." And then I loved all of the ongoing jokes about how Luke died in the war in Korea. The one I wrote down was when Larry and Luke are drinking together and he cheers this him and he says, "This one's for Korea. Not enough films made about it." And then I love the exchange when they're in Mountain World and they're having this conversation with someone that they're just meeting about how they died. And Joan is like, yeah, it's just, I had cancer, like old age. And then Luke says that, he died in the war. And then they start talking about like, what war. And
Sure. She's like, it's legit. For scenes, I really love the opening scene. I don't think it's my favorite, but I just think it's so well done. And one thing that I didn't mention earlier is I love the decision about the gender reveal because it's so relevant to today. You guys both know how I feel about gender reveals. But the fact that he wakes up and he knows what the gender is because he has the confetti in his hair, I just felt like that was such like a sweet decision. He's like, oh, it's a girl. I think my favorite like fun scene was when they get drunk and you also have like Joan and Karen getting drunk at the same time and rotating between the worlds. And I just love that part where Joan is like really drunk and she's like, this one is about me. But Michelle, I agree. I think that part is so sweet when Luke and Larry are talking about their moments of pure happiness. I have a couple of sentimental quotes. I think my favorite one, which just really stuck out to me about the writing and the imagery, is when Joan is verbalizing what her decision is going to be. And she prefaces with a really sweet dialogue to Larry. And she says, oh, I'm getting emotional. My first morning without you, I hoped it was a bad dream. I smelled your toast burning downstairs. I heard the rattle of the back door. And, I even threw your pillows on the ground the way you always did. And I was pretending. And she basically says, like, she had, like, gone, through that before, like, with grief when Luke had passed away. And, none of us thankfully have lost a partner yet, but I feel like that's such a beautiful image because it's like encapsulates like love and loss like all in one of like remembering all of these tiny things about each other that are so beautiful and so mundane until they're not there anymore. And she was like really like laying it bare, I feel like, in that moment before she breaks both of their hearts. So I just felt like that was such a very, very well written and really well communicated by Elizabeth Olsen. Like if you look at the way that the dialogue is written and how she verbalized it, it's not like I smell your toast burning. She's not rattling things off. She's really taking these pauses and she's really like taking deep breaths and having a really hard time remembering how painful it was right after Larry passed away. And Larry even interjects into that moment and says like, it's okay, honey. Like, cause he knows she's getting emotional about it. So I thought that was so beautiful. I also love that it's a little bit more cliche, but she says love isn't, a happy moment. It's a million. It's bickering in the car. It's supporting someone when they need it. It's growing together. It's looking after each other. And then for funny lines, I mean, literally anything that John Early says, I really love that subtlety, which I mentioned earlier about him saying, she has to make a difficult decision. I love the part where the two guys are fighting and they're like, fight, like they're encouraging them to. But Callum Turner has like this meltdown because he's so sick of everyone saying that he's perfect. And John Early says like, you okay, babe? The first time he really sees him freak out and he's like knows that he's losing his shit and he doesn't want him to lose. And that whole exchange, Anna is like reminding Larry to bring up like the tidbits of why Luke is flawed. She's like, bring up the coasters. Remember the coasters with the woman's numbers on it. But I think my favorite funny line is from Anna when which is very subtle and I feel like very tropiano humor, when Larry is asking like, oh, is there a god? Is there managers or someone I could speak to? And he's like, who do you work for? And she says, I work for Frank. Frank works for Tony. Just going up the like corporate ladder of the junction. A great balanced meld of humor and sentimental moments in this movie.
Great picks.
Okay, food moments. Not too many in this movie. I have a couple things written down. Dom, is there anything this movie made you want to eat or drink?
in the mountain world, there was probably some good mountain food, like a lot of hearty stews, or like at that
Such a dumb
ski
answer.
chalet, there was probably some fondue there, maybe.
Yes.
Not that I'm a big, huge fondue fan, but I feel like after you ski in Europe and you have the cheese fondue.
I feel like I need to give fondue another chance because I've only had fondue once. And it
I
was
feel
like,
like the act of fondue is more
yeah.
enjoyable than the actual food because
Remember
it's
when
just
there was
nothing else.
a time period where there was like a chain of fondue places? Yeah,
What is the name of it?
I went
something
for my birthday. It
hot.
was like $3,000.
The Melting Pot? Is that?
Yeah,
Melting pot.
I think so.
Yes. Michelle, what about you?
I don't know if it made me want to eat this, but obviously pretzels were our kind of like big
Yeah.
standout. And then, we see a lot of drinks, a lot of, bourbon or rye. And Karen has a dirty martini with also in Karen's room when she's sitting on the couch, there's a multi-tier tray
Mhm.
that looks like it has pastries on it. Maybe something like if you were doing a high tea that would be
Yeah.
brought out. So I feel like Karen kind of had all the good snacks. But thrilled to see Champagne Theory intact in a very
Yes.
fun way that they were drinking it during the fake Dean Martin concert.
Michelle, I feel like we need to do an inventory of all of our episodes we released. If there's what percentage of our films that we've done has Champagne Theory held up. I feel like it's a good
I
amount.
I think it's most of them. There's one that comes to mind that I'm pretty sure doesn't have it, and it's the movie E.T. of the film to table canon.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We or maybe someone in our audience can go back and do an official count. But I
Yeah.
think the theory holds strong.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else. All the other small notes are the hummus in the basement
Oh yeah.
quarters refrigerator. He also is eating peanuts. He's just switching between snacks, but he's eating peanuts in the car, which is a very good character little tidbit and also a little bit of foreshadowing. The Chardonnay we brought up for the woman who couldn't pick her worlds. Yeah, that martini looked great. I don't know what like dark drink they were drinking when they were getting Karen and Joan were getting really drunk, but I would have gone with the martini. Okay, so for our dinner party this week, Dom, guest of honor, you get to pick where we're having it. It could be anywhere we see in the movie. It could be a worlds that we didn't enter. But where are we having our dinner party this week?
We'll have the dinner party at the gender reveal party.
Oh, back in real worlds.
Back in real
Yes.
worlds. Everyone's
Okay,
alive.
Disappointed?
interesting.
So Dom, I'll give you someone, you give Michelle someone, and then Michelle, you give me someone. Tom, I'm gonna give you the Dean Martin singer, who's not actually Dean Martin. And he comes intoxicated to the gender reveal. Who are
And
you
this
gonna give Michelle?
the ticket booth attendant at the memory tunnel.
Fenwick.
This is a party. I love this.
Perfect. Laura, I'm going to give you the girl with the headphones who works at the front desk
Okay.
in the junction.
All right, Dom, what is Dean bringing to the party?
I'm sure his diet is predominantly Vegas Rat Pack Steakhouse, just meat, steaks, potatoes, martinis. But he's not Dean Martin. He's a tribute artist.
But he's getting really into character, so he eats Dean
Sure,
Martin's
but he's
diet.
not. I mean, I'm sure Dean Martin had some. Went to some great top quality steakhouses in Vegas. But I mean, I think this guy's more of a like a Reno, Nevada, just like
Yeah.
a step below the real deal. So probably just like a low quality steak, like poor marbling, and I might need to phone a friend to get Jimmy to kind of talk through the different cuts, but just like a low quality cut.
Tomahawk, which I think is more expensive, but I'm just picturing him like showing up and being like, can I use your grill? But he's like drunk, so it's like a fire hazard.
Well,
The
and a
fire
callback to the
truck.
apartment. I'm sure he can walk up to the door with martini glasses, full
Yes.
Yeah.
pre-filled.
Yes. He has
So
Perfect.
over the open fire on the grill with a loose martini.
he keeps his shaker set like in his center console in his car. He doesn't do Stanley cups. He only does shakers. Michelle, what is Fenwick bringing
I
to our
think
dinner this week?
I think Fenwick seems like he would be a cheese board guy. So I think that he's making a very elaborate cheese board, but I think that he has an agenda. I think that he really wants this baby to be a girl, and ultimately he will end up being happy with the big reveal. But I think he is subtly trying to slip as many pink things onto this board as possible. So maybe he has a little section that has shrimp on it. Maybe he has a section that has like strawberries that are like cut open so you see the middle parts of them. So it's a little bit more pink in color. You know how like they have certain cheeses that are like red wine infused or soaked cheese? I think he has a few of those. And then I think that he also is NA. Like I don't think that he drinks, so he volunteers to bring a non-alcoholic drink. And I think that he has mastered separately from this making a copycat of the pink drink from Starbucks, which I'm not entirely positive what's in it. I think it's some kind of combination of coconut milk and strawberry puree, but I think that he brings a whole pitcher of it and he's playing it off like it's his thing. He's really trying to push his agenda that he's guessing that the reveal will be that the baby's a girl.
It's actually a pretty great spread of stuff he's bringing. He's really contributing.
I'm really amazed by Fenwick. He is going above and beyond. He's like, I need a break from the booth because I've been there. I can also see him like clipping flowers from Mountain Worlds, like
Yes.
in forests.
Absolutely, Laura. With some really nice, I can see because it's coming from Mountain World, like lots of those like the leaves that kind of like come out and like overarch
yes
the sides of the bouquets.
He's gotten really
very rustic.
He's gotten really into the floral business as his second job in Mountain World. Okay, I think that the girl at the front desk is a very type A person. I think she's very organized. And I don't know why. I think maybe because it's her age, but I could see her being really into sour candy and bringing like maybe like those peach rings. And I feel like she's kind of making up her own gender reveal of like, well, I'm going to bring these peach rings to represent the girl, and then I'm going to bring like creepy crawlers to represent if it's a boy. And everything's in like these very like color-coded, organized bowls. And she's like, yeah, I'm just showing up with candy because she's a little spicy. Like she's not spending time cooking a meal. She's going to rely on drunk Dean Martin to provide the actual main course, and she's going to rely on Fenwick for the appetizers. So she's bringing more of a sweet treat. And I think for drinks, like I think she drinks Sprite. I don't know why.
Yeah.
She comes off to me like a Sprite girl. So I think that she brings like individual Sprite cans with some like pretty straws. She's got to work the desk, so she's got to keep going with her sugar rushes. So she's like constantly eating sour candy and drinking soda, maybe even some caffeinated beverages late at night. But this is what she's bringing. She's like, I have only a couple hours off from my desk, and I am bringing the sugar rush to the party. Okay, Dom, are you ready for our this or that segment? You get to answer all 10 questions.
10-ish.
Michelle, do you have yours ready?
Yep. Would you rather spend eternity with the snoring beach man or fake Dean Martin?
Oh, fake Dean Martin easily.
All right. Would you rather be busted for coloring your hair or having naked lady photos on the interior of your cabinets?
Coloring my hair. That's really not that bad.
Pick a job in the afterlife, security guard, and it can be Fenwick's position. You don't have to be the ones who apprehend the runaways, or an AC.
Oh, an AC.
Yeah,
That's kind of
I'm
more of
surprised by
a
that. I feel like I could see you doing Fenwick's job. He looks like he's sitting in front of a movie theater taking tickets.
I agree, Michelle, but I think just his like outwardly the way he seems to not be enjoying his job kind of scares me that maybe it's
Okay.
not all it's cracked up to be.
He does have to deal with a lot of emotional people coming out.
Well, but I mean, so does a AC though, so I don't know.
That's true. Hysterical people.
Maybe the isolation of being at a theater in the middle of the woods with no one around you might be better than because you got to deal with everyone who dies.
All right. Pick an eternity date. Hiking in Mountain World or a boat ride in Beach World.
Oh, hiking.
And last one from me. Which eternity would you choose between Studio 54 World and what I think is called Weimar World, which is the 1930s Berlin without the Nazis, the one that you suggested that I might enjoy?
It's difficult because there's pros and cons to both. I'd have a great time at Studio 54 World, but not for eternity. I mean, I couldn't do that every day. I could do it like for 2 days. I could live in Berlin for eternity, even though it's just German food every day and brutal winters. So it's tough. I mean, I would say German world because I think just Studio 54 every day is just not sustainable.
Okay, Dom. Who would you rather have as your afterlife coordinator, Ryan or Anna?
Anna, because she seems more down to earth and doesn't get too overwhelmed. She doesn't seem like she gets stressed pretty easily.
Okay, this is kind of a dark one. Would you rather die by choking on a pretzel or from a terminal illness?
A terminal illness. You can have those final speeches at your deathbed with everyone from your past coming back.
That's
Like a
true.
pretzel, it's just.
It seems so sudden.
Well, it is sudden.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, and you don't want, like, I don't want you to tell people I died because I choked on a pretzel. Like,
Yeah, because that is kind of a funny story.
I just want my enemies from my past to come and ask for forgiveness on my deathbed.
This is very Godfather of you.
Very Catholic, Dom.
Okay, and lastly, would you rather go away to war or go to a gender reveal?
I mean, both are wars in their own way. I'm just not cut out for war. Like, I support our troops and our veterans. I don't know if I could do it. And I think I might just pivot and actually, now that gender reveal parties are out, I think I want to bring them back.
Okay. All right.
So I think that's where I'm going to go.
Okay. Well, our kind of sub-season of time is coming to an end. So we will be continuing our Valentine's Day series with some new treats. We're going to be entering into some period piece movies next week. Make sure you tune in because we are going to be covering
a film to table first. We've never covered a movie in this way before. If the schedule works out, we are going to be doing Wuthering Heights, which is coming out the day before Valentine's Day. So very perfect. So make sure. We're really pushing people to go into the movie. So go with a friend, go with a partner, go with your mom if you want to be uncomfortable. So we'll see you then.